Well, emotionally, I think we are missing him terribly. Professionally, emotionally, he was the heart and soul of Fiki. He began the journey at Fiki, and everything Fiki has achieved in the last over a decade, I think, has been largely because of Yash Uncle's contribution. He was the whole and soul of this event. As you know, he was there right through always. And I don't think there's a single moment that he's not missed. And not just this year, he will be missed for years ahead. We are just following in his footsteps. I mean, every kind of guideline he ever stated, every kind of dream and aspiration he had for Fiki, his constant need to kind of take industry causes to a governance level is something that both Uday, me, and everybody at Fiki want to continue to do. What do I say? It's a tremendous blow to us and to the film fraternity. And for me personally and professionally, losing him was like a big blow.
All right, and to Kajol here, since we are talking about your comeback, and of course we all miss you on screen, and you saying that Vidya now has a husband, the family thing, you know, actresses being married, where something about coming back to acting after marriage was considered something very big till just a few years back. Of course, Dimple had done it long back. But then, and how do you think the market has changed? How do you think the people's perception has changed in these years? And now when you look at doing a script, do you think you can still do what you did before marriage, or, you know?
You know, I think that, you know, women actresses have been doing movies after they got married for a very long time. I mean, we have, you know, we have people from Saira Banu to Sharmila Tagore to, you know, how many people have done movies? They've all done movies after they got married. I think it just made you just made a big deal out of it when I did it. That's all. And I think, I really don't think it's that big a deal. An actor remains an actor. Yes, the image, as we say today, because of the brand value or whatever, has changed. After you get married, there is that change that you cannot do. There is a certain boundary that you, some things that you just cannot do after you get married. And that is okay, but you enter a completely new arena. You have new you know, new scripts open to you suddenly, and you're seen as a woman. Your whole image changes to a woman, and to a complete woman, as you say. So I think it's, I think it's, you know, it's great. One door opens and another one, one door shuts and another door opens in front of you.
We have two more questions, ladies and
Hi,
gentlemen.
Kajol.
Yeah, that's the lady there.
Had you not been an actress, what would you have been? Part one. And part two, 10 years down the line, where do we see you as?
If I had not been an actress, I really don't know what I would have been, because I was just 16 years old when I started off. And at that point of time, I hadn't decided anything about what I wanted to do. I was just, you know, I was just this 16-year-old who was going to college, and I really had no idea of what I wanted to make out of my life. So I'm really happy with what I did. I'm really happy with the choices that made me what I am today. But if I have to go into what ifs, that's not something that I believe in. 10 years down the line, I really don't know. Maybe I'll have a third baby.
Yeah. Why not? We have one last question. Okay, that lady there, and then we're done.
Hi, Kajol. I wanted to know, who do you think is the Shah Rukh and Kajol of this era? Or let me put it this way, the best on-screen pair, because we really miss you.
Thank you so much. But, you know, I haven't seen a love story like that. I haven't seen a love story like a Kuch Kuch Hota Hai or a Dilwale in the recent times. A lot of movies have done well, but as far as love stories are concerned, I haven't seen one to match up to those films. Not because they're mine, but just simply because as a film, I just haven't.
All right, she seconds that. Okay, we have just one, and then, there, yeah, that's it, yes. Can you take the mic there, please? And that's the last question, ladies and gentlemen.
Just out of curiosity, Kajol, how much of your mother do you see inside you when you're on screen, or even in your private life, or when you're everywhere? And how much of your aunt, because of Nutanji? So how much do you see them in your life, daily life? And how much of your dad is there in you? Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. That's my lineage there, right there. I see a lot of my dad in me. I see a lot of my dad in me, especially when I'm, you know, sitting and I'm laughing with my kids, or I'm sitting and I'm telling them a story or something like that, that's my dad. That's all my dad, because I'll tell you a story. When I tell them a story, give it to them with the full sound effect of the lightning crackling and the horse riding and all that. And that's how he used to tell me a story. And that's how I tell my kids the story. As far as my mom is concerned, I think I see my mom more and more inside me every day, because especially when I'm shouting at Nissa or I'm shouting at my kids, that comes out as my mom. They're like, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" That's my mom, for me at least. And as far as my aunt is concerned, I think sometimes I see glimpses of her when I see myself on screen. When I'm doing a particular, during some scenes, there'll be just a flash of an expression where I will see it. I mean, a lot of people come up to me and tell me that, oh God, you look like Nutan in this shot. But I don't see it that often. And when I do, it's just maybe a glimpse of her that, oh my God, that does look like her. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is Kajol for you. Great stock. As I said, tremendous lineage. And truly, truly the finest actress our generation has seen. Thank you very much for joining us today at FICCI Frames. And as I said earlier, we hope to see much, much more of you.
Definitely. Thank you, Karan.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before you think of leaving, think again. We are going into the Power Pack valedictory session. While we raise another round of applause to India's finest actress, ladies and gentlemen, Kajol. Thank you, Karan. We're moving on to the valedictory, which has the secondary I&B Ministry present with us. He'll be addressing us. We also have a clip from Minister, I&B Minister, the Information and Broadcasting Industry. We will have a keynote address by Mr. Ronnie Screwvala, MD, Disney UTV, Mr. Uday Shankar, Mr. Kamal Hassan, Prasenjit Chatterjee.
Rolling?
Are you actually planning to get married or no?
No, I'm not planning to get
Don't
married.
tell me.
मुझे चिंता नहीं है, पूरे देश को चिंता है मेरी शादी की.
Who's your ex?
My friends who've been there with me.
My picture. Check.
They're walking in now. They'll give you a cue to start. You start. Don't wait for the third one.
Good evening once again. Welcome to the valedictory session of Frames 2013. I'd like to request you to raise an applause for yourselves to making it to the evening session and supporting Frames 2013. Ladies and gentlemen, you have made Frames 2013 happen. Can I request the audience to applaud themselves? It can be louder, a little more energy. We are in the valedictory session, guys. It is power-packed. We have the most important, some of the most powerful people in the media business. And while the media gets enough of them, we'll one by one, hopefully, find some way for them to join us on stage. I'll begin with inviting our Honorable Secretary to I&B Ministry, Mr. Uday Kumar Verma, on stage, to be followed by Mr. Uday Shankar, Chairman, FICCI Media and Entertainment. Mr. Kamal Hassan, renowned actor, producer, and director. Mr. Ronnie Screwvala, MD, Disney UTV. I'd request the media to settle down so that we can get on with the proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the icons of the media and entertainment industry of India. We can give them a round of applause. We have the Honorable Secretary, INB Ministry amongst us, Sri Uday Kumar Verma. And we have Mr. Prasenjit Chatterjee also with us. Sir, please join us on stage. I wish I knew Bengali. I would have announced that in Bengali. We expect Mr. Karan Johar to join us shortly. During that time, may I request Mr. Uday Shankar to take things forward for the valedictory session.
Thank you. First of all, a very warm welcome to Secretary Mr. Uday Kumar Verma, my friends and colleague, Mr. Kamal Hassan, Prasenjit and Ronnie, and all of you. We've had 3 glorious, spectacular, and stimulating days of ideas, debates, discussions, and disagreement. And that's what FICCI Frames is meant to be. And I'm so delighted that in the first year of my responsibility to guide FICCI Frames, I have not disappointed you, or at least I hope I have not disappointed you. One of the things that we were looking forward to was the views and the reactions and the ideas from the government, because the government plays such an important role and is, as I said in my theme speech, can play such a big role in the growth and leap of the entire media and entertainment sector. Because of conflicts of itinerary and commitments during budget session of Parliament, neither Minister Manish Tiwari nor Secretary Uday Kumar Verma were able to make it in the first 2 days for the inaugural, ideally as we wanted, and subsequently over the last 2 days. We were all getting very disappointed, and I can only recall how many of you, how many times asked me if they were going to be here. And I'm really happy that Mr. Verma took the trouble of tearing himself away from whatever he was doing in Delhi and found time to come here for a few hours. Thank you, Mr. Verma. Thank you again. And I would like you to give him a round of applause for that. I'm also happy to share with you that, as we said in the morning session, that despite the fact that Minister Tiwari was not able to make it here because of his commitments with Parliament and a cabinet meeting that's scheduled perhaps later today, he displayed his commitment and how seriously he takes the FICCI Frames, and he was willing to talk to us on a video link up, but technology played the devil and we could not do it live. But we were able to record his address to FICCI Frames, and I'm very happy to share with you that we are now ready to play it. So we'll start the valedictory session of FICCI Frames 2013 with the address of Minister Manish Tiwari. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the speech of Mr. Manish Tiwari.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, please accept my profound apologies. As a result of Parliament being in session, I have not been able to, despite my best efforts, travel to Mumbai and be in your midst for this very important conference which the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry has organized. I've had the privilege of being briefed extensively about the discussions which have taken place, and I'm sure that this conference will come out with appropriate takeaways which both the industry and government would be in a position to implement in order to ensure that we are able to make this sector far more robust and vibrant than what it presently is. As it happens in government and with ministers, the Information and Broadcasting Ministry exercises various remits. We are licensors. We are also players and stakeholders in the media industry. We are also regulators of some sort. So therefore, it's a mixed bag which you have to really administer as the person who is in charge of the information and broadcasting remit of the government. However, I would not choose to really focus upon the initiatives which government has taken over all these years, specifically with regard to making the entire broadcasting sector far more transparent and far more attractive in terms of an economic proposition. But I will choose to try and address the four or five issues which my esteemed friend, who is the chairperson of the FICCI Entertainment Committee, Mr. Uday Shankar, had apparently raised in his inaugural speech, a copy of which he was kind enough to send to me. I cannot agree with the sentiment that the media and entertainment industry is not only a huge economic multiplier, but it also has the potential of absorbing the creative intellect of our younger people as India goes into the next 2 decades of its economic trajectory. It is therefore incumbent upon government to try and ensure that we put in place appropriate mechanisms which try and play the role of a facilitator and an enabler in order to ensure that the growth of this particular sector is even at a far more rapid pace than what it has witnessed over the last couple of years. Uday in his speech had specifically referred to 2 issues, one with regard to increased customs duty on set-top boxes, and I believe the other issue was with regard to withholding of content, taxation on content rights, if I've got the order correct. Insofar as the first part of it is concerned, I think digitization has been a unique experiment which my honorable predecessor took upon as a legal remit in order to see that the cable and television space, which is analog across more than 51% of television homes in this country, is digitized. In the first phase, we went through a digitization process in Mumbai, in Calcutta, in Delhi, and in Chennai. By and large, this digitization process has been successful. But what has also come out as a result of a review of this process is that most of these set-top boxes, are imported from countries in our neighborhood, especially Southeast Asia. So it is important that when such a huge exercise is undertaken, which involves a revenue outgo of about $4 to $5 billion, essentially paid by the people of India and by the multi-system operators, there should be certain tangible benefits which must accrue to Indian manufacturing. So therefore, in order to give a fillip to Indian manufacturing, to see that a part of this huge economic cake in the broadcasting sector does translate into tangibles in terms of providing the appropriate incentives to the Indian manufacturing sector, the finance minister, in his wisdom, decided that customs duties on imported set-top boxes needs to be increased slightly. So therefore, I don't think it should really be seen as an attempt in order to stall digitization or in order to set the process of digitization back. It needs to be seen in its proper perspective that we as a country do also have a responsibility of ensuring a certain amount of vibrance in our manufacturing sector as we implement various initiatives to try and see that some of our sectors are made far more transparent and are made far more economically robust. As we go into the second phase of digitization across 38 cities, I think it is very important for the industry also to realize that while there may be a legal compact which backs this entire process, there is also a social contract which calls upon all stakeholders to this process, whether they are broadcasters, multi-system operators, or the local cable operators, to intersee, sort out the issues which they have, because eventually this process needs to be a win-win situation from everyone, to the broadcaster, to the consumer. And if any section within this larger stakeholder family really feels shortchanged, then obviously there is cause of concern. And that is where the industry really needs to walk that extra mile in order to ensure that as we unfold the process through its second, third, and fourth phase, it really is a process which enjoys the universal backing of all stakeholders, irrespective of wherever in the value chain do they fit in. Similarly, with regard to the film industry, I think one of the greatest success stories of India's soft power has been India's film industry, whether it is Bollywood or it is regional cinema, Tamil, Telugu, Bengali, and for the lack of time, I would not go across the various other Indian languages which have added to the diversity of India's soft power initiative as it has unfolded over the last 100 years. And the beauty is that the Indian film industry has grown not because of the government, but it has grown despite the government. And that is why, in order to see that this receives a further fillip, we have been working to ensure that there is a single window clearance insofar as shootings are concerned, especially for people who want to really come in from abroad and use Indian locales for shooting. That clearance time between central government and state governments can be cut down. Similarly, there have been issues which have come up with regard to the entire certification process. Though entry 60 of the union list gives this power entirely to the union government to certify films as being fit or unfit for public viewing, state governments have been exercising, a certain law and order remit or powers which they feel flow out of entry 33 of the state list. Therefore, in order to reconcile and harmonize this entire gamut, we've set up a committee under the former Chief Justice, Mr. Mukul Mudgal, to see that the integrity and robustness of the Central Board of Film Certification processes is protected, and film producers do not really have to go hat in hand from secretariat to secretariat, ensuring that their films are screened in a particular state, even after they've been certified by the Central Board of Film Certification. I do hope that this committee would be able to send its report as early as possible so that we can translate it into an appropriate legal framework, and if it requires to be taken to Parliament, we can expeditiously take it in the next session itself. Another issue which Mr. Uday Shankar had flagged in his speech was the crisis of talent within the industry. And I think that's something which needs to be looked at in terms of a public-private partnership. Government, of course, has its film institutes. It has its institutes even in the information sector for the training and the certification of journalists. But a far greater initiative in this regard, especially when we go into the technological aspects of either broadcasting or filmmaking, really needs to come out of the private sector. And if there are any suggestions as to how this can be made into a viable economic proposition, we are more than prepared as government to look at it. Since this is a recorded speech and it's not the same when you are talking to a live audience, so you are constricted by looking into the glass of a camera constantly. So therefore, I would just like to round it off by saying that the last issue which Mr. Uday Shankar had raised during his inaugural address was with regard to the freedom of speech and expression. And he had certain very strong words to say about it. I would just like to say that freedom of speech and expression is something which is guaranteed by the Constitution, guaranteed by Article 19 of the Constitution. But the same constitution which guarantees the freedom of speech and expression also imposes certain reasonable restrictions on it. And I think the challenge here is to see as to how we can find the golden mean between this liberty and the reasonable caveats which have been imposed on it by constitution makers. If you personally ask me, I think the freedom of speech and expression does include the right to offend. But then, as someone who's been a practicing lawyer, I ask myself this question, then what about my remedy? If I have a legitimate grievance with the offense which has been caused to me as a result of a certain amount of irresponsible latitude being interpreted as the freedom of speech and expression, do I then have appropriate remedies which can restore to me my dignity and reputation, which are equally guaranteed by the Constitution of India? So therefore, as we unfold this debate further, I think it would be worth the while of industry also to introspect that there is a distinction between a debate which is honest, which is introspective, which is full of candor, and something which can be corrosive to the national spirit. And as India goes into the next 2 decades of its economic trajectory, this is the space for consolidation we have. And in this space, while we require robust oversight, we need to safeguard against the corrosive nature of a discourse, which also has the ability to derail India's quest to be a part of that 21st century, which everybody says is the Asian century. So therefore, with these words, I would like to close my remarks and once again apologize to all of you that I was not present there personally. But I have, as we speak, requested Secretary Information and Broadcasting if he can travel today afternoon to Mumbai to be present with all of you in the evening in order to amplify if he feels appropriate on some of the remarks which I have made, or at least to roadmap the initiative which government has taken in order to be an enabler for the information and broadcasting sector, which is something which I chose not to address in my remarks. But once again, I would like to congratulate FICCI for giving me this opportunity of making certain extempore, off-the-cuff remarks which should not be misconstrued or misinterpreted as a policy statement of the government, but rather as food for thought, food for deliberation as you go into the penultimate and the final rounds of your conference. Thank you very much.
Karan, this was something that you were supposed to do, but since you decided to make yourself scarce, I'm trying to
I'm done for the 3 days, Uday. I decide now you play moderator today. I'm exhausted.
Thank you very much, Karan. I know I could count on you to not count on you. You know, I think the minister was very candid, as he always is. I don't know whether to feel flattered or whether to take note of the fact that he chose to respond to everything that I said in my theme address. But it does give us a very clear signal that here is a minister who has a point of view on multiple issues. I was most happy to note that he said that personally he believes that the right to, the freedom of speech incorporates the right to offend. As long as we have a minister who individually believes in safeguarding the freedom of speech even at the risk of right to offend, we on behalf of the media community and FICCI would like to assure him that as a community, as an industry, we are very conscious that we need to be very sensitive to our responsibilities, our social responsibilities. There could be disagreement sometimes in how we see those responsibilities panning themselves out. And sometimes some of those responsibilities do come into conflict with pushing the creative envelope. But that's what makes us a vibrant democracy. Thank you, Minister Tiwari, for sharing this with us, and we truly appreciate the time that he found despite all his commitments. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to request to give the valedictory, the keynote speech. I'm going to invite one of the leading captains of the industry, someone who I personally have enormous admiration and respect for, someone who I would like to be like, Ronnie Screwvala. Thank you very much.